Hello, and welcome to another episode of Pop-Up Dungeon. This is Northstar. For those of you new to my channel, welcome. Those returning, welcome back. Today I've decided, God, I'm a little loopy. I'm sorry. I'm trying to put out lots of content because I'm disabled following COVID and unable to work, so I'm trying to get my YouTube channel to where I can monetize it to have some hope of surviving long term. The amount of help I get from the government is a pittance. It's not any real life, especially because I got screwed up SSDI because a couple of the jobs I worked were for university when I was a grad student. I got disabled young, so it's a whole story about there about number of work credits try to screw you over. Whole system, it's not a social safety net. It's quote insurance, according to bureaucrats at Social Security Administration, at least a particularly nasty one. Yeah, it's like the health insurance this you pay into for years and then you don't get any help when you need it. it's like insurance in that way. But anyways, I was thinking of doing another Wizard's Tower floor, but I thought, let's do a run home campaign. I do like this one. Maybe I'll try and whip through it a little quicker than normal. So let's go. By the way, some game modes active. No equipment degradation. So I'm not forced to use Centurion to get that. Otherwise, Centurion is just so much better and removes a major annoyance with no equipment degradation. So I'm can try out the other paths, dynamic difficulty, which makes things harder by including charm level in difficulty calculations when it's not, and in certain times it just overall makes difficulty higher. I found party equipment boost to make the dynamic difficulty a little easier and make this whole run quicker. 2 random allies, roster booster, which it gets like actual hero party members who will sit my roster, but occasionally their skills can come in handy even from the roster, from the bench, for some roles. So when there's particular roles that are important to getting achievements and stuff, I don't have to go back and do stuff over and over. It just makes things less annoying. Even though I don't almost never dip into the roster. Initiative up, it's a pure buff to our initiative way up. It's a custom version made it's more powerful, just so I can actually use my shield charms more consistently without having to run an initiative charm. Scaling battles, I'm 6, so I will start the campaign with 6 battles that will just massively increase the difficulty curve. So when you get to the actual campaign, it will be way harder. So yeah, this is a bit unique, but it'll get some really difficult battles. Some points may have to drop down early on, though eventually I get to where I'm hitting my stride. I think after
fear no evil.
I like to do these really difficult campaigns with a few buffs, but more than a few buffs. But I like to do really high difficulty, so I learn what things do and do not work well at highest difficulties and can tweak my abilities a little, make them better. I learned some principles that just generally make my equipment and abilities better. I used custom equipment and abilities.
These elven eyes
Now
have
these
seen
are
much suffering.
the basic versions of these heroes, even though they use portraits for Fire Mage
I'm not used
variant
to
of Orin, which you can use mouse wheel to find variants. There's already a Fire Mage variant, but you may use his portrait, Jane's portrait, the Paladin's portrait, the Druid's portrait, but they're entirely custom characters. Anyways.
I'm legendary.
Higher quality Phoenix Feather Robe.
A divine gift.
They both use Acolyte boots. Wait, would have sworn at one point I created a custom version for one of them, and there might be something there that I meant to fix and didn't. I do know they have different plate, but anyways, have to go and double check the equipment at some point if I remember. Yeah, speed is usually worse for this character.
So this is the fat loot everyone was.
He has more trouble with not having enough speed, so boom. And he's got this, which gives it what I call a divine shield. It's got a little longer cooldown than his whole intervention. So sometimes they won't double fire, but it's got more uses. A longer cooldown makes it more powerful. Really adds the durability of the paladin.
I humbly accept this gift.
Ability to survive instant kills anyways. I'll throw this up so that I get bugged less to equip. Secondary, and also if I switch to one-handed weapon at some point if I get one I really like.
Oh my word!
It's incredibly unlikely. I usually stick with the pre-made stuff, but sometimes if I didn't have equipment degradation off, I would have to swap out. But I don't like dealing with that most part, so that's one of the reasons.
Man, look.
That is powerful paper.
Oh, Frock!
Sometimes greed is a necessary evil. Sometimes greed is a necessary evil.
Alright, Hume received an evasion. I'm not going to do Hrothgar right away. He just goes down incredibly easy. It's not even worth investing his defense or really attack too much early on. He's a very offensively oriented melee character. In the beginning, I want to invest in the paladin, who's much tougher defensively. Guy's kind of glass cannon, and he's in a vulnerable position. It's not a great combo, but it helps when I really just need to hit a certain enemy hard.
Firepower. So this is the fat loot everyone was telling me about.
Yeah, enough to get you to not bug me about equipment swaps. Kind of responding to him saying this is the fat loot everyone was talking about. Alright.
Heavens.
That's simply precious.
This skips a lot of the grind of
May he who illuminated this illuminate me. An instrument for justice. This will aid our quest. Sometimes greed is a necessary evil.
Man, looking for this.
A boon to our cause. This will aid our quest. And I humbly accept this gift.
You know what? If it shuts you up. Grab the buckler.
Our Merlin's beard. By the light. An instrument for justice. Glorious. May he who illuminated this illuminate me. Righteous.
He wants to switch the mace and swap Divine Fervor for Sanctify. I'm gonna say no.
By the light.
I could do that on the Paladin. Swap the sword to... But no, sometimes there's enemies that are too tough to even touch. Hmm. The high armor pen, other stuff is better.
More fire.
A boon to our cause.
Very high level trinkets. Alright, enough of that. Now I get to pick first of 2 companions from among 3 possibilities. First 2 have higher stats. I'm not a fan of goblins anyways. They're pretty... Oh, they're brute, and they're not that all that effective. They're gonna end up fighting alongside a literal demon if I pick this. Yeah, I'll just take the fat man. At least he can immobilize enemies sometimes. I just don't like the roleplay of, well, NB. Jack Crow. Fallen Von Imp. I don't know quite what either is it does. I feel like I've seen Jack Crow before. Might be version of the Undertaker. Or this. I think this is a version of the Undertaker. I at least know what Fallen Von Imp does vaguely. Yeah. Not terribly powerful, but... And there's the Roster Booster. First extra level. I like to take ones where I don't know what the name is, so I get familiar with that particular NPC, because since these are possible enemies, I could run into Jack Crow in the future as an enemy.
Do you have an appointment?
So I memorize more of the possible enemies.
I am at your disposal.
I bag more whales than Ahab.
I have trouble. Oh, it's Scarecrow. Not at all what I thought. I have trouble remembering stuff with long COVID, so anything I can do to try and get something in my memory. Because long COVID brain fog. See stuff enough times, I'll still eventually remember. It just takes a lot more effort, a lot more repetition. Extra stuffed, so you can give yourself power at the expense of it's already terrible mobility. You can fear away enemies. Immobilize anything in a field, friend or foe. Deal dark damage and fear. And harvest damage, but also some siphoning, which does damage but also heals them. A lot of stuff to fear enemies. Some ability deal damage. Interesting. Literal evil Scarecrow. Abysmal against fire, bad against magical. Deficient reflexes. And lunch break. Mobilize enemies who try to approach. Give allies life siphon can help against enemies with high damage or what. Little damage over time. This is the arm pen. This actually does something. A little bit of siphoning. And can basically desummon any enemy summons. Not a very strong character, but that forces me to rely on my actual party. 15 minutes in. Let's pause it while I set this up. Like, position my party. And I'm back. This will have to do for setup. Let's get the battle going.
Never turn your face from the
So,
cold.
every run's a little different because I get different ex-companions, drawing different abilities, keeping different ones. Sometimes I'll swap one out, thinking I'll get something better, and I will. Or sometimes I'll swap something out. Thinking I'll get something better down the line, but it's more useful at a low power level, hasn't been upgraded. The next thing, and I won't. Sometimes I will. Sometimes I get something really great early on. Lots of different things that make every run a little different anyways.
Stay close.
This trigger the buff.
All in.
Go ahead. I'm watching.
Doesn't need the life siphon at all. Got basically Batman, Raven Knight, and his butler. Dense. The only thing he can do is summon a walking teeth. But yeah, not that harmful overall. I guess I'll just have him. Will work himself. For haste and just stay put.
A divine favor. My wrath undoes the wicked. Our cause is true.
Long have I watched man.
Lord King's back there, buff himself. Little. Probably should have that move. I could have that move a little without using AP. Oh well, mistake made.
The darkness will not rise.
Let's make this quick.
Who says gambling's easy money? Hot streak. Jackpot. Roll 'em. I'm all in. Jackpot.
Got through the shield there. enemy that is. 1 mobility. Yeah, Jackrow is slow as heck. Save up AP for now, I guess.
Justice is always watching. There is no escape.
Raven Knight uses the same voice as the crowd hero, i.e. they had the crowd kind of late and didn't even bother doing new voice for him. I'm sure the Raven Knight was already in, or maybe Raven Knight was at that time, I don't know. For sure. Remember the crowd was added when they reached a certain crowd raising goal for the game. It was originally a Kickstarter to raise money for this game.
I don't need no instructions to know how to walk.
Need any cavities filled? Do they not make floss in your country?
You know, too many people don't floss. It's kind of stupid because it provides a place for black bacteria to hang out, as well as make your gums less healthy. If you don't floss, you think, oh, I haven't listened to things bad happen to me. Yeah, there's damage being done just because you haven't reached the point of specific problems doesn't mean there isn't damage continuously being done. People hate being told they need to do something.
Put your faith in the light.
Even if they clearly do. Of course, they gladly accepted at work. Well, not gladly. A lot of people hate their bosses, actually.
The light will guide me. Warm your hands by the fire, friend.
The elements do my bidding.
I'm getting pretty beat up, that's for sure.
This will aid you.
I'm not used
This
to
is
all
Galaxy
this
Brain,
darkness.
typically. So, with dynamic difficulty add-on. If your companion's in the last run, which that was probably make it too easy because companions scale up with enemy power level. Of course, my party doesn't only scales up as they get upgrade tomes and such. Yeah. Probably want Jane to be further back from here. These lunch break balls. Yeah, let's bring back Hrothgar. here, so it's a little out of the way, but
Eternal dawn, light the way.
We are pilgrims in an unholy land.
Feel the
not
light
squishy.
course through your mortal veins.
Remove more this
Come
way.
with me if you want to live.
All right, it's my turn now.
Mm-hmm. Great time.
Luck favors the bold. You can't read my poker face. I'm all in. Read 'em and wait.
And that didn't last long. I
I'll
did
spot you this one.
tank for Brock a little.
Time to shuffle. Roll.
But yeah, that bit about work. Those new to my channel, I'm a democratic socialist, and it pisses me off very much that people just so blindly accept capitalism, which is the fundamental nature of capitalism is not markets. There's actually such a thing as market socialism, and in fact, capitalism often subverts free markets despite its claims to the contrary. Mobilize these guys. Straight some railings. Made it so the real damage dealers can't do anything. Cool. Might as well do a bit of damage. And that opens line of sight for this.
Justice must be served.
And the Raven Knight is afraid, so he can't even use the defensive abilities for a turn. Can't actually run away though.
I come from the storm. Man at work.
Um.
We're doing wicked. Why? Why?
Do you have an appointment? I'll just follow the halitosis. How about a little underbite? You know the drill. This will leave an impression. I'm gunning for you.
May I take your order? Toast, tea, bandages?
My wrath undoes the wicked.
Yeah, so it says me so people so blindly accept capitalism, which is about the private ownership of, farms, mines, factories, that kind of stuff. Businesses, which is that's why you have a boss. Capitalism, as opposed to workers' cooperatives, which exist throughout much of the world. And I'm not just talking like Cuba or something. There's workers' cooperatives all over France and Spain in particular. But you can find them throughout most of Europe and even some in the United States. Worker-owned businesses can exist under worker cooperatives can exist under capitalism, but they're like little socialist niches within capitalism. the only real socialism that exists in most capitalist countries. This nonsense of, oh, it's socialist to fund welfare programs. That's got nothing to do with socialism. Socialists tend to like welfare programs, but the essence of socialism is how businesses are owned. That's the only thing it's about in the end. Other things are peripheral because the sort of people who tend to become socialists tend to care about the working class. That's often why they became socialists, and that's why they support welfare programs. But it's not inherent to socialism in any way. In fact, the Soviet Union practiced quite a bit of austerity at times with not making consumer goods readily available to people. It's not that they actually cut welfare systems so much as they controlled the production of consumer goods because it was a state-owned economy.
I've still got some bite left in me. This bites.
Oh, goodbye, Dr. Dents. Evil dentist.
We are pilgrims in an unholy land.
So, because it was a fully planned economy, the Soviets would limit production of consumer goods in order to put, labor resources into scientific research, infrastructure development, heavy industry, which is the type of industry that makes stuff that's used in infrastructure. Also, people say the military, but that's actually kind of a bit of propaganda, not entirely true. Heavy industry is most properly stuff like cement, steel, and yes, steel is used in tanks, but you can technically consider small arms production to be light industry, not heavy. That's getting more into the style of industrial production. Sometimes light is defined as consumer goods, and heavy is, other stuff, but there's different definitions of light versus heavy industry, so it depends on which one you're using, really, I guess. Either way,
I give you my heart.
resources are put into things that in the long run were to lead to a higher GDP growth rate. And indeed, the Soviet economy had a higher long-term economic growth rate than the United States. By growth rate, I mean percent growth rate, because they start off way smaller in the US when they first formed. They had to grow much more rapidly to ever hope to catch up. And as percentage, if way to think of this is if I give you $100 and you double it every 2 years, you're doing better with that than someone who I gave $1 million who we added 10% to it every 2 years. Soviets closed the GDP per capita gap from about 1 to 13 to 1 to 2 by the time they collapsed with the US. So, relative to the United States, they grew sixfold, but that still wasn't enough to catch up because they started off so far behind. And because they required people to make enormous sacrifices to attain this kind of GDP growth rate, there were, very few consumer goods produced in the Soviet Union, and the ones that were produced were mostly cheap, low quality. People got fed up with it, and it's probably what led to the collapse of the Soviet Union. They thought too long term to the point they abandoned the short term.
A divine favor.
These elven armies have seen much suffering.
Of course, there are other factors like the Afghanistan war, which hugely demoralized the Soviet Union as well, because the whole thing about socialism is not supposed to be imperialist. And a lot of people believe the Afghan war was imperialist, that it was about resources or control. And actually, there was a communist government in Afghanistan, and they requested Soviet aid. But then the Soviets did extremely questionable things, like assassinating the leader of communist Afghanistan after he proved to be a huge liability with making all sorts of terrible governing decisions that were making it really hard for them to win the war. But you don't assassinate your ally who brought you into war and then continue the war. That makes no sense. And this gets to a lot of the problems of the Soviet Union. There were ways that they were corrupt, that they were unaccountable, and this was because they were a one-party state as opposed to being a multi-party state. That's not anything to do with socialism. It is to do with Marxist-Leninism specifically, though.
Tread lightly. Feel free to die.
Lenin had the theory of democratic centralism, which called for all socialist parties in the Soviet Union to eventually merge into one, which is what happened. And that created a one-party state. They actually had multiple competing parties early on. They could have kept it that way. Of course, there was a problem with the Mensheviks siding with the whites, who were like the fascist monarchists who refused to accept that Russia had turned into a republic. And so the transitional republic, because there was what happened is there was a brutal dictatorial monarchy, then there was a temporary republic to form, then that republic fell apart into civil war, and then the Soviet Union was established, which was technically a one-party republic, as opposed to a multi-party republic. People often don't know the history of this, but it was Lenin's ideas that led to that, which is not the only way you can do socialism. That's Marxist-Leninism specifically. It's huge problems with Lenin's ideas, which is why I am a democratic socialist and not a Marxist-Leninist, because I am convinced that Lenin's ideas doomed the Soviet Union long before it fell. You cannot have a healthy democracy if it's a one-party state. Just like the U.S. history is increasingly proved, you can't have a healthy democracy if it's a two-party state. You need lots of competing parties. Otherwise, party bosses will subvert any democratic processes that exist. And there were democratic processes in the Soviet Union. Quite a few of them, in fact, but they all got subverted by the party bosses. Now, it's worth noting, after Fidel Castro died, Cuba actually saw these problems with the Soviet Union and proceeded to actually remove their Communist Party from most of the democratic processes in the country, preventing them from selecting who would receive the nominations, basically the way that most socialist countries that were established on the model of the Soviet Union worked. This is not the way to do it by any means. This is just an attempt at creating a workers' democracy. Most such countries would have mass meetings where people would select candidates in like town hall style meetings, who would then go to the general election, where they're in Marxist-Leninist countries were only those candidates, and because there's only one party, and you basically had to receive the endorsement of the party to hope to win the town hall style meetings most of the time, because people were afraid to select anyone outside of the party endorsement. You had to select someone who was a member of the party, and usually it was you select the person who was endorsed. So yeah, Cuba got rid of the whole thing with having to select a party member or endorsement after Castro died, and essentially brought back democracy to their country. But the U.S. refuses to acknowledge this fact, or at least, well, Obama made a little bit of a nod to it. It's true. That wasn't the real reason for the decrease in tensions and attempt to normalize relations. Obama actually did, hoping it would lead to the collapse of Cuba's government. Cynically. If they saw what the West was like, they would abandon socialism, which did not happen. And so the CIA went back to trying to overthrow the Cuban government, like they've been doing for generations. But yeah, like in Cuba, if you go there today, which is hard to do, because the U.S. basically keeps the country isolated. If you're American, at least there's no easy way to get there. It'd be viewed as extreme suspicion if you even try to go. Like, the government will likely add you to watch lists.
Sure, buddy. I'll witness.
But there was quite a bit of information was collected when Obama somewhat normalized relations. There were even some Americans who traveled there and observed and confirmed the things that they were being told about the country, and that is after Castro died. They got the Communist Party out of the electoral process, allowing people to freely select their candidates. They still kept the town hall meeting selects candidate, general election, yes, no vote type of thing, but they also but they got the Communist Party out of the electoral process, and they massively increased the ease of direct referendums on subjects that people believed are important. So made it very easy to hold a referendum, which is the most democratic of democratic institutions. A referendum is allowing the people to directly vote on the law instead of vote on representatives who promise to do something who might go back on their word.
Tickets, please.
Uh,
I am not a valet.
Most famously, Cuba had a referendum on some things to do with LGBTQ rights, and then they proceeded to rewrite the Constitution because they did a Constitution thing to rewrite parts of the Constitution to make the law more LGBTQ friendly in Cuba. I mean, I think it was a law passed in a referendum, but it was actually a constitutional amendment. If I'm getting this correct, but maybe I'm mistaken about that, whether it was technically an amendment or not. But yeah, because Cuba had, unfortunately, a sordid history of LGBTQ people being oppressed, just like was true in most of the world, including the United States. Some horrible oppression of gay and lesbian and bisexual transgender people for many, many generations.
My path is righteous.
For instance, if you've ever heard of the Pink Scare, where NASA purged any gay people, kicked them out of the organization. That's what purging means, to kick someone out of an organization. Like when the Soviet Union did the Great Purge, they kicked people out of the Communist Party. Fortunately, a lot of those people were also killed on top of being removed from the party. But not everyone. Some people were simply removed from the party. It's technically all it means to purge someone. The Democratic Party purged the Bernie Sanders people after the 2016 election. I think it was. Memories of being a little fuzzy on this, but purged a lot of Sanders supporters from the higher ranks of the party. I mean, this... Yeah, anyways, this term is often misunderstood and misused, but doesn't help. As I said, the history of the Great Purge in the Soviet Union, where people not just purged, they were purged and executed. And people think that purging means to kill. No, it does not. Not in this sense of the word. Anyways, fortunately, the words come to mean what people understand to mean, regardless of what they originally meant. So, I mean, if you ever play Stellaris, people exterminating aliens is called purging in the game. Even though, again, that's not a proper use of the term. reinforces
I walk through the valley.
historical and inaccurate understandings where people think everyone who was removed from the Communist Party in the Soviet Union was killed in the Great Purge, for instance. A substantial fraction, where I think it was like 30% people who were purged were also killed, but by no means all.
I'm not used to all this darkness.
Many people were later readmitted to the party, but being removed from the Communist Party meant they couldn't run for office, which again is one of the problems of the one-party state. Give that one party immense power, and being part of that party is synonymous with being able to have political power. Anyways, Fredericks can do a bit of damage with his rebuttal and such. I'll send Jane here where she can heal.
Long have I watched man.
I could have been promise, divine promise, whatever. Holy promise to Rothgar. Actually, that would have helped. Well. Summon a Phoenix. It's got more mobility than James does.
You're not gonna like this.
Anyways. God, I got on a tangent. I lost my train of thought. That happens. That's not that powerful shield. I'll get through it. Easy enough. Quick enough. Soon enough. Need the greater Ember Step to be able to get in range at all. Alright.
No substitutions. Blame this on the butler.
Hit the Phoenix pretty hard there.
Don't make me battle you.
Let's get out of range.
I sentence you to more life.
And healed. Mostly healed.
Let's see where this lunch break takes us.
Both my companions are ridiculously slow. They'll benefit from jetpacks. For sure.
You don't even know what you're doing, do you?
Oh, dead anyways.
A moment of silence for the fallen. Oh wait, is that loot?
This will aid our quest.
No. It won't. It won't aid our quest.
Let's pray now on?
Yeah, things are not going to go
Sometimes
easier.
greed is a necessary evil.
Each battle's going to be a lot harder than the
Let's
last.
honor the dead by putting their gear to use.
Because these scaling battles scale definitely much faster than normal battles normally do.
Ugh. Could you clean this off for me, please?
So that was by far the easiest battle I'll ever fight. Let's get Brock Billy to guard from a bit further back.
I
Positioning
humbly
matters.
accept this gift.
I'm not even sure I'd want to give this to Jane. She can give Holy Promise to herself, and eventually she'll get Jetpack Billy. This is kind of a garbage ability. Guess James can use it to clear obstacles on occasion. Hold on to it in case they change my mind about it
I'm
anyways.
looking for this.
Swap it for a different building
Yeah.
sooner or later.
More firepower.
Yeah, he's pretty tough already. James has absolutely no evasion. Tim might give him a chance sometimes survive hits he wouldn't
An instrument for justice.
otherwise. Let's see, focus on the Paladin right now. Alright. Starship Medical. This is going to be fun. So. Yeah, I guess I should just start. Start through this a little bit, cut the video a tiny bit in, and I don't know, I just need to keep progressing. Cut it a little bit and start a new video.
The darkness will not rise.
This is more fitting for the run home setting, which is space Star Wars-y themed. It's like Star Wars, Star Trek. Intention of Vegas to borrows a little from every major sci-fi series, probably even like Babylon 5 and stuff. And various books you probably never read, too.
I did a little experimenting in college. Wanna be my guinea pig? I deal in uncontrollable substances.
Instead of controlled substances, uncontrollable substances. So three mad scientists, a gray one, and an extinguisher. Whew, a lot of slow but hard-hitting characters. This is gonna be fun. Let me pause setup and I'll see folks on the other end. Alright, here we go. So, this works.
All right, it's my turn now.
Hey!
Some distance there. Although, radiate was add
That's a
scientists to
stolen
massively
power
improve
item.
mobility of other characters, and they can do that to each other.
I still have faith in them.
My wrath undoes the wicked.
What, you allergic to work or something?
Back off. I'm a scientist.
Never turn your face from the coal. Redemption is at hand.
Perfect. Abysmal against Spirit.
I hear the chaos calling. Might you fight the inevitable with your thread? I hear
Or against magical.
chaos calling.
Let's go for guaranteed kill.
Well, this is new.
Death. Death is what's new, as we saying.
Put your faith in the light.
Mad scientists don't have a ton of defensibility themselves, although they can use blood transfusion to strip shields, use red eye to do a little damage.
These elven eyes have seen much suffering.
Sure, it's been necessary, but
Call upon your light.
eh.
Any volunteers? Almost out of kitty bandages. Fascinating. This will be education. Fascinating. For science. Don't panic. This is just a test. This will be education. For science. Test tubes. Are you feeling smiley face or frowny face? Time to learn. I'll bring the science to you. This will be education. Ow! I deal an uncontrollable substance. Gotta get in motion to stay in motion. You may feel a little pinch. Fascinating. You may feel a little pinch. This will be education.
This will deal massive damage over time.
Time to
Yeah.
learn.
Killing Hrothgar with radiation, basically. Oh, no, red-eyed.
Our cause is true.
Oh, maybe not quite.
This will be education.
Surprisingly effective. Anyways.
You look like you need supervision.
Let's make this quick.
test tubes.
Long have I watched man. I wield the elements in your favor.
I will fear no evil.
Over time. Just at the 1 hour mark. It's not great, but be worse.
It's your tax dollars.
Back off. I'm a scientist.
Fortunately, she'll be able to steal the light siphon. Blood transfusion. And use it to heal herself up.
It's hard keeping a lab coat white. I'm not used to all this darkness. Feel free to die. I'll resurrect you.
Speaking of which,
Eternal dawn, I call upon your light.
I do not seek glory.
Any volunteers? Flip-flops, don't fail me now. Radiation poisoning. Here's a kitty bandage. Almost out of kitty bandages. This is a latitudinal study. Time to learn. Fascinating. You may
as
feel
opposed to a
little-
longitudinal study.
This will be educational.
She said latitudinal study.
Fascinating. Flip-flops, don't fail me now. I did a little experimenting in college. Chemical burn. Have a kitty
Not supposed to
bandage.
wear flip-flops in the laboratory, of
What's
course.
the rush?
For science. Time to learn. Fascinating. You may feel a little- Time to learn. Fascinating. You may feel a little-
Just turn the Grail into an absolute monster. Eh. At least it feared it.
Hey! Want to be my guinea pig? This is a latitudinal study. This will be educational. For science. This will be educational. Almost out of kitty bandages.
Man at work. I gotta get in the... I'm gonna glaze your donut.
I did a little experimenting in college. Flip-flops, don't fail me now. Chemical burn, have a kitty bandage. You may feel a little pinch. Fascinating. This will be educational.
You're not gonna like this.
Race shoes run out of kitty bandages.
Ha!
Let's see if that keeps Jack Crow alive.
Effort is the magic of man.
Mm-hmm.
Ow! Statistically, this shouldn't be happening.
Never turn your face from the coal. Warm your hands by the fire, friend.
It's not quite as statistics work. Rare things do happen. Sooner or later.
Stay close.
Here! What, you allergic to work or something?
Hey! Studies show lots of pain.
We are pilgrims in an unholy land.
It's almost sad. The studies show lots of pain. Thing.
I bring the flame.
This weren't presumably like a holodeck training exercise in the ship. That you actually start off with a ship that you never get back. In this campaign,
Will not rise.
you get a different ship. Old piece of junk. It's probably a Millennium Falcon reference.
I like to keep my friends friends. Someone feed my rats. Any volunteers? I'll bring the signs to you. Time to learn. Gotta get in motion to stay. Are you feeling smiley face or frowny face? This will be education test tubes for science.
Let's see where this lunch break takes us. Yeah, we'll get there.
Where is my hat? This will aid you.
Odd fire damage to the fire using bird. Thank you very much.
My wrath undoes the wicked. Our cause is true. Go back to the shadow. Stay close.
Hey, it's hard keeping a lab coat white. Back off.
But yeah, other than the
Show. It's hard keeping a lab
commentary
coat
on
white.
history, socialism, all
I'm
that,
a scientist. Statistically, this shouldn't be happening. It's hard
got me
keeping
thinking
a
about
lab
this
coat white.
this particular moment. It's
Studies
something.
Show lots of. Watch the test tubes. It's hard. hard keeping a lab coat on.
Enough. Just finish with the zeal strikes, Hrothgar. There we go. It got me thinking about a lot of this was seeing someone get arrested for on YouTube for a YouTube video of someone getting arrested for not taking, well, for wearing a mask, for wearing an N95 mask at a protest in Georgia. These anti-mask protest laws are very much a symptom of the powerful elites who, under capitalism, own immense wealth and corporations which give them immense economic power and therefore indirectly political power.
The light will guide me.
All right, it's my turn now.
Wanting to be able to use facial recognition software to identify people partaking in protests and then blacklist them, using that economic power to suppress people's right to expression. Now, yes, the First Amendment protects people from the government pressing them based on their political speech and does not protect them from business owners doing that, and that's a freaking problem. America's founding fathers could not have anticipated the enormous corporations of the modern era
Student loans.
without anticipating a lot of technologies that made corporations that size possible, like computers
I
and
do not seek glory.
telephones. But modern telephones, did they have the telegraph then? It might have. But, you know, wasn't clear how things ran up. Air travel, that definitely wasn't anticipated.
I walk through the valley. A righteous victory.
But yeah, because major businesses are not in the hands of the people who actually do the work at the businesses. You get these rich billionaire assholes who can use the control of companies to blacklist people for daring to, say, protest about what's going on in the Middle East or Ukraine or black rights or any number of other issues. And effectively, especially because in many areas there's sometimes monopsony, where there's a single employer for a single buyer of labor. Monopsony is a single buyer. Monopoly is a single seller. There's monopsony in the labor market in some smaller towns. So in some cases, someone say came from one of these towns where the employer happened to be to a protest somewhere else, or even just took part in protest in that town, because this giant corporation that dominates the labor market, small town, a person might not even be able to get any jobs where they live anymore, simply because they, you know, exercised the right, and this is a human right that is enshrined in the Constitution, but people forget the reason these laws exist to protect free speech is because it's a basic human right the founding fathers of the United States believe should not be infringed on by any, you know, greater power than a person. It was an expression of individualism. People should have the right to speak out politically. And with the way capitalism has made just even survival for most working class people so difficult that
looking for this.
This blacklist can utterly ruin someone's life. And you got these assholes, like I said, they don't want people wearing masks, so it's easier for facial recognition software to clock them. We're in the government too. We're headed very much towards a dystopia where surveillance technologies developed by large capitalists and used by the government and large corporations are making real freedom impossible.
Knowledge is power. That's not bad either. I'll keep it safe. There is a rich lore to this item.
Alright, well I managed to power through that fight relatively quickly, but I'm exhausted. So, I'm gonna have to call it here. I just can't keep going. My energy levels are way too low, even though I need to produce as much content as I can for my channel. As quickly. Well, not necessarily always quickly, but I need to produce as much in a longer time frame as possible to have any hope of surviving. Because the disabled are not adequately cared for in the United States. There's Social Security SSI, but you can't get that till you're basically flat broke and have no savings left. SSDI is screwing me on a bullshit exemption that was added in the 90s to poke it full of holes. And the meager amount of money you get from the state government, not enough to live on. Plus, Medicaid and food stamps are coming under attack by the Trump administration and his Congress. So, yeah, without income, I can't survive, and there's no way I can work. So YouTube is the best I can do. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, I need to get my subscriber total up to 500. I'm working towards that. It may take years, but eventually I'll get there to be able to monetize. And then I'll see how much money I'm getting, and that'll help me figure out how much more I need to grow views and such in order to actually make enough money to maybe survive. Or to get out of the country and get a self-employment work visa somewhere in Europe, because the US is going fascist. Slowly but surely, it might not happen for 20 years. Could happen in Trump's term, but it will happen eventually, and I need to get the hell out. Anyways, enough. I wish you all the best. Viewers, take care of each other. Be kind yourselves, and may you always find a guiding star to lead home. Till next time, adieu.